when the war began, I was in the Balkans, and news came that I'd failed my school cert, and my father, who was our consul in Split, said, "You will go back and you will take your school cert again and you will pass it." And I said, "Yes, indeed." Off I set, had to change trains in Milan. It was near midnight, and the concourse of Milan station was almost deserted except for two pairs of military gentlemen pacing past each other and looking down the noses at each other, and I thought this was most peculiar. And eventually I turned away and I saw on the concourse some newsagents with a billboard outside and a lurid depiction of an aircraft carrier sinking and biplanes toppling off the flight deck. And I remember looking at that closely, then looking back at those two pairs of military gentlemen and saying to myself, I'm going to join the Navy and I'm going to fly those aeroplanes. Now, what I had been looking at was the sinking of Courageous on, I think, about the 16th or 17th of September 1939, been sunk a few days earlier. It so happened that not only did I join the Navy and fly those very airplanes, my first commanding officer was the last man to land aboard Courageous before she was torpedoed. It began at St. Vincent. It was a stone frigate. You know what a stone frigate is. It's a naval shore establishment where we learned anchors and cables, WT and that sort of stuff, before going on to flying training. That, in my case, meant going to learn on the Tiger Moth, and then to Canada to train on the Harvard, and then back to this country for advanced flying training, and in my case going on to TBR, Torpedo Bomber Reconnaissance, which was represented then by the Swordfish and the Albacore. Swordfish, fortunately, was where I found myself. Because we didn't form up until March 43, we were sort of Johnny-come-latelys in our opinion. And post-war, a colleague of mine, he's still alive incidentally, remarked, you know, we were the scrapings from the bottom of the barrel. And I replied, and I can remember thinking, yes, but look at what we achieved. And I replied, but what scrapings? The main challenges were those on board. To go back to life on board, we were well fed, we were comfortable, it was warm, but a couple of times a day perhaps you had to get up in the air when you might get lost or have engine failure, and then of course you got to get back on deck. That was the limit of our discomfort. You could be torpedoed as well, which is why at all times we wore our Mae Wests. The rest of the ship's crew wore their life jackets, because you could be in the water the next minute. Otherwise, the U-boat. Most of our time one never saw anything. Our job was to look at the water and to look for the wave which did not break. The wave which did not break was a periscope. Or, in the distance, you could see white water. White water would be a boat on the surface. Otherwise, that's what we did, hour after hour, just watching the water. I personally didn't know where we were most of the time. Were we in mid-Atlantic? Were we heading south towards Gibraltar? It wouldn't have made any difference if I'd known.